Hello, everyone. Sam and Fee back for another Midweek Musings. How
Ooh.
we doing, Fee?
Not too bad. I've been. We always have a little chat beforehand, don't we?
We
And
do.
to gauge how we're feeling, how our weeks have been, and what's going on. And um, yeah, it's that mixed bag thing again. Like I've been quite pissed off, like the just certain things trigger you, and you're like, um. So I've been a bit, yeah, like ranty for the last day, but it's kind of that sort of clean anger, which I think is a very positive thing because it clarifies, when I'll tell you what it was. So a lot of people will have seen this. I don't know who this guy is actually. I think it's the Bank of England actually. I think I made a note saying Bank of Scotland and it's not. Um, but it's our the Bank of England, and this guy Hugh Pill, which is quite an unusual name, saying people just need to accept that they're poorer. People don't. And you think, fuck you. I can well imagine him behind getting his mansion, his gates where no one can get
They
in it. Oh,
know that.
you accepting it? Are you any poorer, mate? Telling us people just have to accept, and it's like, no, we've done quite enough accepting
Yes,
actually our whole
right.
lives. And no, actually, I don't think we will. Um,
Yeah, I think that's when the clean anger, it becomes useful, doesn't it? Because
yeah,
that type of anger stirs something in you that goes, no, hang on a minute. No, 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 no. This is unacceptable. And it does, it really kind of prickles you. And I think it can kind of stir more of a kind of motivating, positive
yes,
response to anger
motivating,
than just that
exactly.
anger that comes down like a red mist with no kind
Yes,
of
there was a
which
bit of a red mist there, but yes, it's kind of disperses. So I think it's just like, who are these fucking people to tell us? And I think that's what it is. You reach this boiling point, which we're seeing everywhere. It's like, who
yeah,
the hell do you think you are to tell us how we need to live? We need to accept that. Do this, do that. You've got to adhere to this rule, blah, blah. And it's like, no, no, and it's always coming from these people who are so far removed,
yeah,
who have got absolutely no idea of the grind. And that's what I was sort of saying as well, that I've been a bit, like you have those days where you're just like, there has got to be more to life than this grind where it just feels like you're literally surviving, getting by, and this is what they want you to expect as being normal, as being, oh, just, yeah, just that's how life is. Yeah, not for them, it ain't.
yeah.
It's just. And then there was the just quickly, like, to just show this like insane disparity. You've got, I think most people will have heard of Vanguard and BlackRock, which are basically those absolutely monolithic. They
Yeah.
basically own the world.
Monopolize the world. They own the
I
monopoly
mean,
board.
yeah, they're behind everything, like literally everything.
Yeah.
And they have got $20 trillion. $20 trillion.
Eye
And
watering.
we're being told to accept, and bearing in mind that these companies, these corporations as well, as we're being told, austerity and oh my god, all the pandemic has caused blah blah, the profits they have made off the back of the scamdemic are just absolutely staggering. And yes, we're being told you have to accept you're poorer, while they have literally made billions and billions directly, because it's just that absolute mockery. And
And I think it has illuminated this massive difference between those at the top and us little people down here. And I say that in,
the
you know, but
injustice.
I do think it's part of that is the very essence of this awakening, is that I think many of us, most of the world, have grown up and lived our lives in that acceptance of this is the way the world is, this is how the system works, this is what we've got to do. Life is about trudging along and surviving and getting by, and all of these things we've been told to accept. But actually there's a lot of us coming to the point of, hang on a minute, why do I have to accept this? Why do I have to accept that we live in a top-down society where all of these people are sitting up there on their golden thrones with all their money, and I'm down here working my butt off just to survive? Why is the system have to function in this corrupt, manner? Why? So many questions as to why does it have to be like this? And actually,
it doesn't.
This feeling of anger and a feeling of wanting to take that power back, and actually this awakening to the idea that actually, no, I don't have to accept this, and actually there are things I can do to change this. And actually what I am going to do is not spend my life just getting by. I'm going to spend my life making those changes and taking my power back from you.
And it's I think, before these shady kind of operators behind the scene, they were just that. We didn't have the names for that. It just wasn't common knowledge. Like people weren't really questioning, we are definitely going through that awakening process where people want the truth, and it's coming out. So these things that before, that just the corruption, the systemic rot, it just wasn't out there. I mean, of course, people have always complained that governments are corrupt and MPs taking their backhand, things like that, but not to this degree. I think now it's getting to the point where it's literally out there from the moment something's discovered. So for example, we've had obviously the emergency broadcasting system message crap here in the UK, and it transpires that the company that's been paid, I dread to think the amount to put this failure as well, by the way, because you had 10 million that, forget like those of us who switched it all off and would have nothing to do with it, but 10 million phone users didn't even get them. So it was, a load of crap anyway. But it turns out that our Prime Minister's wife is the owner, or she's got share, I don't know, she might be the owner of the company that it was contracted to. It's all these dodgy deals and we saw it all through the scamdemic as well. All the, the contract.
I mean, colour me completely surprised and gobsmacked by
I
this
know,
news.
I can tell you're clearly shocked by this.
I know, it rocks my world. Like,
yeah,
like, it would never be that corrupt.
I know, but that's out there and circulating pretty much straight off the bat. Those things, like years ago, that it would come out at some point, but now I guess because of the internet and social media, it's a double-edged sword for them, because while they try and control things and
most things in life are, aren't they?
But it's also very risky for them, because that information, and once it's out there, that's it.
I mean, they have their fact checkers scrabbling, don't they? But
they're being exposed themselves, aren't they? That's the wonderful thing really about this kind of moving into the truth vibrations, or whatever you want to call it, is that these things just, they can't hide in the shadows anymore. So it's a weird kind of paradox. There's that anger and but at the same time there's so much being revealed, there's so much running alongside this, you know, oh my God, life is so hard, and you really get those down days, and you just think, oh, I just don't want to be living like this. At the same time, you have got all of that going on, which eventually it is going to raise us all up, because the truth is coming out. So
Yeah, so
yeah.
much of it, and actually, you know, yes, there are these things that are coming out straight away, but you've also got the news stories, even on the BBC, that we spoke about
Mm,
earlier, about,
mm,
you know, the mask harms and shielding studies, and all of those things that are actually telling the general public what we were telling the general public, what we were aware of 3 years ago,
yeah,
and we're putting out there,
yeah.
and we're no, mocked, dismissed, censored. No, that's nonsense, blah, blah, blah. But um, it is all still coming out. And it is, I don't know. We know there's the whole great reveal coming on, and it's a reason to be mindful. But I think it's also in to be slightly cheerful. I mean, I'm not one to do the "I told you so" thing, but it is quite nice to get that vindication of,
Mm,
no, you see, that all that stuff I was telling you, that wasn't nonsense. Now your beloved BBC is telling you. Do you think that in future you might pay attention to me? Because, you know, there's been lots of these occasions. I mean, with so many aspects of what's happened over the last 3 years, and all the drip feeding of stuff that is just again and again and again proving everything we said to be absolutely spot on and correct. And you I don't know, I suppose I live in hope of this, of the in the idea that the general population will use this brain that we've been given, and kind of see the unfolding of the
mm,
last 3 years, and the disparities between the beginning, the middle, and the end, and how, you know, it all kind of is all coming out now, and
yeah.
thinking,
And
maybe,
questioning those organisations
yeah,
like the BBC, not just accepting, oh well, the science changed, you know, and just being, oh, okay, so we'll just listen to whatever they say, because no. And there is a lot of backlash against that as well, because it's like, for those that are willing to admit that they were wrong, or they were duped, or, you know, whatever, then it's very clear. It's like, but yeah, you were saying that 3 years ago. So if you knew it, why didn't the BBC, with all their resources and, you know, endless money, and why didn't they?
and experts.
All of it,
Don't
all of
forget
those
the
people,
experts.
exactly. But again, see, that corruption, it's going to be exposed. All they can do, when we talk about the drip feeding, and, you know, I don't see it as, oh, this whole thing of the truth coming out is part of an even bigger, more horrific agenda. Because you could go into, you know, that's one of those rabbit holes. You can go that way, which is basically saying we're screwed, whatever. I don't subscribe to that. I think what they try and do is they know very well what's happening here, the energies, the awakening, all of this stuff that's happening. All they can try and do is to try and steer and manipulate, and trying to look over here and assign blame there, and don't look at us, you know, and try and cover their own backs. I think that's what it is. I think they knew there was, because of this is literally a cosmic thing going on that's way beyond like just us little people, us little individuals here. It's a frequency shift. They know all this stuff, you know, those at the top, they know exactly how everything works, and what the laws are that are in place, and what's been going on for thousands of years, and what will be going on. All they can do is try to, like I said, manipulate and steer and try and get things to go off the rails, but they can't actually, you know, truth is truth, and that's the end of it. And once that's there, there is nothing to be done. It can't be hidden, because that's a total shift. Then we won't be the same people in that sense. We will be living in a completely different way, because our minds will, our perception, our way of experiencing and seeing the world will be so different. Our understanding of ourselves and everything will be gone to a completely different level. So all of that crap down here, it doesn't exist anymore, and that's where the control is. This is where it's all going on down here, and they're just desperate to keep us away from, you know, that trajectory that we're on, whether they like it or not. So I think they're just stirring the whole time, just desperately trying to keep us here as long as they can.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think, you know, it is truth coming out. So when we do see things on the BBC, it's like they've got no choice. They have to put it out there, but they'll skew it, you know, they'll put their little
I
slant
don't
on
know.
it.
I mean, do they though? Because it, we know and we have seen that the majority of people, perhaps not anymore, but a couple of years ago, the majority of people, they didn't go looking for answers. The
No.
answers were what the mainstream media told them. And I think for a lot of people that this does kind of still ring true, that even if they look into things, or you know, on a surface level, and kind of think, unless they are told it by an organization such as the BBC, that actually they won't put their faith in their own intuition, their own knowledge, their own ability to learn about the world, and will always kind of farm this power out to those that they've been taught have more knowledge than them, have more expertise, more experience. They know what they're talking about. And so, you know, I think when it comes to these stories, I think they don't necessarily have to, because everything that is supposedly being found in new studies now already existed in studies 3 years ago. That is
Yeah.
where we got our information from. All of this stuff has been found and proved and shown multiple times. And then we
Yeah.
had that window where everything was flipped on its head, and suddenly all of that science was to be dismissed and ignored, and we were to embrace this new idea that masks are going to save our lives, and all of the nonsense that came with the last 3 years. So I I
I,
don't know. I do kind of subscribe to the idea that there is this whole kind of great reveal coming, but I don't see it in a negative
no.
doom and gloom kind of, you know, pulling me down the rabbit hole kind of way. I do think it's something to be mindful of, because I do think there is this, you know, very much push to collapse all of our belief systems, societal systems, and all of those things that are keeping us in this chokehold. To show people how desperately, you know, terrible they and corrupt and awful they are, and the human beings that we've got in power, how corrupt and awful that they are. And that's why we need to tear it down and come up with a new system, this one world
Oh yeah,
totalitarian,
it's
you know,
definitely
government.
an
And
angle.
that actually a lot of these stories are about pushing towards that, and how did we get it so wrong, and these systems are
Yeah.
not fit for purpose, and let's we should start again, and
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
is how we're going to do it, accept this new world order,
Yeah.
etc. But I think the job we have over the next few years is to convince people that the people offering this solution are the people that made the problems in the first place, and
Exactly.
that actually accepting their solution is accepting more problems. And
Exactly.
actually, you know, it's very much the when the kind of crescendo, because we're building up to it. When the crescendo comes of tear it down, and it's much more kind of blatantly towards the end of where we're heading to, with a tear it all down and start again, and here's your solution. That as we come to that, humanity does have this very clear choice to make. And I think I still, as I have always said, and I maintain now, that I believe that humanity are on the right path to, be going through that awakening to that point of like, no, that enough people, maybe not everybody, maybe not, there's no maybe about it, not everybody is coming with us, there are still very much these people that will blindly accept it and go along with it. But I do think there are enough who may not be in a place now where they're ready to really take on everything that's going on, but are becoming ready. And that by the time we get to that tipping point where it really, I mean, it matters now, of course it does, but when we get to that point where it really matters, I do think there are enough, and I do think we will, veer towards that. No, thanks, but no thanks. I do not accept your solution. I don't know. I think we'll never know, and I don't know. I sometimes wonder whether it'll even be in our lifetime, because you can never really forecast how it's going to play out and how they're going to play their hand. But I do have faith in humanity, more for me perhaps, but I do, and I think the amount of people around the world that are playing their part in getting the world out there and prompting people to really actually use the brain they were given, and to look inside themselves and be like, you've got to ask yourself what you want and what part you want to play in this, and helping people to get to that point where they're like, no, do you know what, I'm not going to accept this either.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what this is all about. When we talk about the BBC, things like that kind of crashing down, they'd really rather that didn't have to happen. They'd rather none of this had to happen, because we have been effectively a slave race for, well, I mean, it's got worse and worse and worse, but again, that's for a reason, because people are awakening. And so it's all part of, I just see all of it, them having to destroy the systems that they've put into place that are all about serving them. Of course they would rather not have to be doing any of that. They'd rather we just kept
so,
along
the
in
great
this
reveal is like the backup plan to combat the awakening that's happening. It's quite a nice way of thinking about it. I like it.
And it's crap though, because again, it's like you can't fight this tidal wave of truth. It's what we're on now. It's we're all riding it, and of course it's just going to come out that yes, the very same people who have been keeping you enslaved and trapped within these systems since time, well, I mean, it's been a long time. As I said, it's got way worse, but they're the same ones who are going to be offering up this solution, and it's not going to work. People aren't falling for it. You've got more and more people now who know exactly who the WHO is, the WEF, things like I just said, Vanguard and BlackRock, who were these very shadowy, like, who, what? Now people are aware, my God, they own everything. And it's just so much easier for these things to be exposed, to find out the links between people and it's only going to pick up. It's getting more and more, because like I said, it's something sort of beyond. It's this frequency, it's this vibration that is raising up, which means that the lies cannot continue. They can't keep hiding in the shadows, because it doesn't matter what the machinations are of people, and this is way beyond individuals' power to, you might be able to do the odd sort of oh, we'll move this here on the chessboard, but no, the outcome's already set, and this is beyond. This is something way beyond. And so whatever happens, the outcome is going to be the same. And so, yeah, when we look at things like the BBC suddenly putting this truth out there, of course it's going to be a manipulated version, and they'll have their try. But to be honest, I think it's almost like, because we're going into that frequency, it's beyond their control somehow. These things have to get out there. We don't know what's going on behind the scenes, but well, we're both on the same page here. I'm not seeing that absolutely everything they're in control. And so, yeah,
No.
they put this out there with the intention of manipulating. They would way rather that stuff wasn't out there. Of course they would. Studies telling you that masks are basically poisoning you. They're causing, I mean, just the list isn't there.
Yeah, there's a stillbirth, the symptoms of long COVID. There were so many more, weren't there?
Fertility,
just all these...
fertility issues in men, obviously, because if you're starving your body of oxygen, cognitive ability, you know, all of those things. I think, yes, they might try to have this overall plan where they somehow, but this is the thing, because it's truth, they can't use it for their benefit ultimately in the end, because it's truth, if that makes
And I suppose the masks in themselves are actually quite a key part of it all, because actually if it wasn't for the masks,
you wouldn't know.
Especially, you know, once you know, the first few months were out the way, if it wasn't for the masks, there would have been no signal really that there was anything wrong whatsoever. And it was the masks that actually kept it all alive. And I'm reluctant to say when, but it's probably realistic. But when the next pandemic comes, I would have thought that masks would have been the biggest sort of, you know, tool in their arsenal of you know, keeping the world in that fearful vibration. And you know, as it did for those few years, that kind of very physical, in your face sign that you should be afraid. And to actually be publishing this information that actually they are just absolutely useless, and not only that, but they harm you, they are doing you damage. And therefore, you know, people will logically kind of be very reluctant to go back to a place where they are putting one on every time they kind of leave their house, or they have company in their house, or, you know, all of those things that people are doing. So, you know, I suppose in many ways it ties back into what you said about it. You know, they wouldn't want to be forced to be publishing this information and making it available. So
I think it's beyond them. I think it's beyond their control, because the truth's going to come out. It's going to come out through, all they can try and do is, like I said, we don't know what goes on behind the scenes. We don't know, like, who makes the decisions really, and what's gone on there. But we have to remember that, yeah, we're in this frequency, we're in this energy where that is what gives rise to the circumstances and situations within, you know, where things happen. And you've now got, you know, if they ever tries again to mandate mask wearing or something like that, you've got this, the bloody BBC have put it out there, along with countless other news organisation things.
I mean, you'd hope
so it's
people would remember that, but then, as I say, all this information was out there pre-COVID, and yet, you know, they clicked their fingers, and all of a sudden, all of that science didn't matter again. But anyway,
yeah, I agree. But then I do think in the last 3 years we've moved. There's been a shift. There has been a shift, and we've got this. I mean, it's just all coming out, isn't it? We've got Sadiq Khan. It's just wonderful to behold, isn't it? He's just like, every other day it's like, oh, he's been caught lying again, you know. I mean, and they're whoppers. They are what, because they're like the foundations of this whole green absolute bullshit agenda. The facts and figures. Oh my God, we've got to do something. We've got to, you know. There was the first whopper. Well, I don't know if it's the first. There've been like countless, but one that stood out for me. It's like, oh, it was between 3,000 and 4,000 people. He's using this as an excuse to push the ULEZ and all of that. 3,000 to 4,000 people in London alone dying every year because of pollution. And then it turns out you get this little retraction, you know, at BBC, sort of hidden away. Oh, so it turns out that actually in the last, I think it was 30 years, there's been one person, like, recorded death, which was supposedly due to environmental issues, pollution, and even that wasn't conclusive. I mean, it's just, and then again, he's been caught out, and they did say this on the BBC, that he you know, playing down, oh, most of the, you know, 9 out of 10 cars are already compliant with the rules around this emissions, you know, so they wouldn't be affected. Absolutely nowhere near.
I mean,
Nowhere
the
near.
absolute gall
It, I
of
know.
these
They're
people.
just
The
outright
the
lies.
brazen. I
Yeah,
know.
it's
I
outright
know.
lies, and it's being
And was it
exposed
you said
on.
about Justin Trudeau?
Oh my God. I mean, it's just the level of hubris. I was saying, wasn't I, that to a normal human being, you would be, I'd imagine, being curled. If I was told to go and do this, I'd be curled up like a hedgehog, having to be prized like open and thrust out there. He's been publicly saying that he never forced anyone to wear the king of mask mandates and vax mandate. He never forced anyone to have a jab.
I
When
just,
you've had, I mean, Canada was probably, you
yeah,
know, along with Australia and New Zealand, but absolutely the most hammered,
yeah.
outright threatened, and he's out there saying that he never forced anyone. It just, but again, it's that exposure, isn't it? It's like there's just no,
They've got no shame. They've literally got
none.
no shame, no morals, no qualms. They will say and do anything, and they don't care.
And that will be their downfall, because they, to think that they can continue to get away with this level of I mean, it
Sheer
is,
arrogance.
yeah, it's just like unbelievable. But yeah, I mean, that's you know, just whipping around, and again, it's just exposing these frauds for who and what they are, which is a good thing. It gets the anger going and stuff, but it's a good thing that this is actually happening now. No one's able to hide, you know, anymore really behind their positions and status and titles. It's all kind of being torn down. But like you say, that's what we have to watch for, is that it's the only hope they've got, is to sort of sweep in under another guise, and oh well, yes, we can't have that system anymore. Here we go, it's all egalitarian and blah blah. Probably all sound wonderful, but we know now, we're primed. I think there are too many
They're
that,
ready.
yeah, it's like, seriously, it's not going to work. Because, but also people, as we move more and more into the truth, your intuition kicks in very tangibly, where it's that you can't just switch it off. Oh, I'm going to ignore that. It's like a bang 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 bang. No, 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 listen. All of those things, all of our powers, if you like, will be returning to, they are returning to us, things that have been just completely buried under this sea of bullshit for a very long time.
The way to describe it,
It
innit?
is really, isn't it? And once those start to come to the fore, there's nothing hollow words. They're just not. No, that's not what you're going to be getting your information. That's not how you navigate through the world anymore. It's very, you'll be very much more tuned in and aligned. So it's not going to wash. So it's yeah, it's good news, but it's hard. We are living through.
There aren't words. There are. I mean,
No,
we try and put words to it, but there are no
you do
words for
try.
just how insane and complicated and messy and difficult this whole thing is to actually navigate through. And the biggest things we can do is actually look for the good news, look for, you know, the things that give you a reason to be cheerful, and not keep following, you know, the things that kind of suck your energy out of you and make you feel like the world is coming to an end, because it's not. I mean, it may be,
It
but
is
in a
in a good way.
rebirthing kind
Yeah,
of way. um
yeah,
and yeah, be a bit patient with yourself as well, I think, and just keep looking for the joy
yeah. I said
there.
earlier, like if you're receptive to it, like you don't force yourself to like, oh, isn't everything wonderful when you're feeling like absolute crap? But just have it in mind, like to be receptive and open to the beauty and the lovely things and all those things that give you a reason to be like, no, I am actually glad to be alive, like as hard as things are. And you'll find that they do come.
Yeah,
They do come, and you're suddenly like, oh wow, it can just be a little tiny
it's
thing.
not all bad. It is never all
It's
bad. We
actually
just have
very,
to
very good.
retrain our brain, I think,
Mm,
and be discerning with what we use our energy for and where we direct it, I think, is the
exactly.
message.
Yeah, we're really running
And
out of
listen to
time.
ourselves. We
We've
are.
really gone
No,
on,
we
haven't
always
we?
do. We do that a lot,
Well
do we? We
done
just get
once
going.
again. If you've managed to make it to the end of this, good on you.
Yes.
Well done. And yeah, we will catch up with you soon. So,
Take care of yourselves.
sending
Find the
lots of
joy.
love.
So,
Bye.
big love. Bye.